Okay, everybody, it's me, Ice Fiction, and I'm back with another episode of my custom commander deck list. Today I'm gonna go over my absolute favorite commander deck that I have. I call this my Wall of Cows deck. The commander is from Outlaw Thunder Junction, is Bruse Tarl, Roving Rancher. It says, oxen you control have double strike. When Bruse Tarl, Roving Rancher enters the battlefield or attacks, exile the top card of your library. If it's a land card, create a 2/2 white ox creature token. Otherwise, you may cast it until the end of your next turn. The whole purpose of this deck is creating these guys. I refer to them as cows. I know they're ox, but I prefer to them as, or refer to them as my cows. This deck has this gigantic stack of lands. This is all non-basic lands of both plains and mountains, every single one of them. And there are 68 lands. There's 34 plains and 34 mountains. So I have a equal amount of mana for both colors. I do not run any mana rocks of any shape or form in here, and there are no like fetch lands or anything like that. It is strictly 68 basic lands, and that is it. I do run a couple other cards, obviously, because I only have 68 lands. About half the cards are flicker effects, where I'm removing Bruse Tarl from the battlefield and immediately putting him back on to the battlefield, or extra combats, right? Because it's a attack trigger and an ETB trigger, so I have cards that do both. Make him enter the battlefield a bunch of times and also allow him to attack a bunch of times. I also have a handful of cards that allow me to double the triggers for when he attacks or enters a battlefield. We'll go over some of the artifacts that I have. I have the Sword of Feast and Famine. Sword of Feast and Famine. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. It has protection from black and from green. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card and you untap all your lands. The reason why this is in here is because with Bruse Tarl, you have until the end of your next turn, so you do still have a full rotation. But if you can attack with him and then untap all your lands, if you happen to exile a card that you need, if you untap all your lands, you can play that card on your second main phase. So that was the purpose of having that in here. I have Trailblazer's Boots. Equipped creature has non-basic land walk. This is in here to make Bruse Tarl unblockable. Most people run some type of non-basic land, whether it's like a command tower or something along those lines. They have something other than basic lands in their deck, so Trailblazer Boots makes it unblockable. Swiftfoot Boots, it gives equipped creature haste and hexproof. It's in here mainly for the haste because I'm trying to get as many attack triggers as I can. And then the last artifact is Conjurer's Closet. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile a target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under your control. So this gives me a way to flicker Bruse Tarl every turn. We'll go over the trigger doublers that I have. The first one is Strionic Resonator. Pay 2, tap it, copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets. So I can copy the exile card. If it's a land, create a token. I have Elish Norn, Mother of Machines. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. That again, anytime I flicker Bruse Tarl, I get that additional or that additional ETB trigger. And then the last one is Roaming Throne. You choose a creature type, and then if a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. So with those cards, I would get 4 instances of this trigger to be able to create as many tokens as possible. On that same note, I also have Ojutark, Deepest Foundation. If one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, 3 times that many tokens are created instead. Mondrak, Glory Dominus. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many tokens are created. And then the last one is obviously an Anointed Procession. If an effect would create one or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many tokens instead. With just these 3 cards on the battlefield, the token doublers and the token tripler, with just these 3 cards on the battlefield, I create 12 Ox tokens every time I exile a land card. And then with the other 3 cards that double the triggers, it's 48. So it is a lot of tokens that I can create. I have never been able to do that. I've had like Ojutark on the battlefield, and I've had Mondrak on the battlefield individually. The most that I've had for the doubler or the trigger doublers, I've had a Histrionic Resonator and a Roaming Throne on the battlefield at the same time, but I've never had Elish Norn on the battlefield yet. The Conjurer's Closet comes in really handy with that as well. We'll go to some of the enchantments that I have. Double Vision is the first one. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets. I have quite a few instances and quite a few sorceries that do different things. Most of the instances give me some type of flicker effect. The sorceries are extra combats. Intangible Virtue. Creature tokens you control get a +1/+1 and have vigilance. This one is really nice because the Ox tokens are already 2/2s with double strike. With Intangible Virtue on the battlefield, they're 3/3s with vigilance and double strike, which comes in handy. Inspiring Leader. Commander creatures you own have creature tokens you control get +2/+2. This is another really good one because that takes it to 5/5s with double strike and vigilance if I have the Intangible Virtue on the battlefield as well. And then the last enchantment is Aggravated Assault, to essentially just give me the extra combat phases. I have 2 sorceries. Fury of the Horde. Untap all creatures that attack this turn. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. And Relentless Assault. Untap all creatures that attack this turn. After this main phase, there is an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. Again, the whole purpose of this deck is extra combats and flickering my commander to maximize the amount of ETB effects and attack triggers to create as many Cal tokens as I can. A handful of creatures, kinda. Hexplate, Wallbreaker. When a crypt creature attacks, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, untap all attacking creatures. After this one, there's an additional combat phase. Again, just getting extra combat. Hellkite Charger. When Hellkite Charger attacks, you may pay 5 to red. If you do, untap all attacking creatures. And after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Combat Celebrant and Port Razor both do the same thing, kind of. With Combat Celebrant, if it hasn't been exerted, you may exert it as it attacks. What you do, untap all creatures. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Port Razor is whenever Port Razor deals combat damage, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. And then the last one is probably my favorite one that makes people the most salty. Archetype of Aggression. Creatures you control have trample. Creatures your opponents control lose trample and can't have or gain trample. This irritates so many people because it removes trample from their creatures, but gives my 5/5 double striking vigilance cows trample as well. It comes in handy very well. So that's the majority of the deck. The last little bit is going to be the instances. I have Teferi's Protection to protect my board state as somebody's trying to target me. Is it going to read? Flicker of Fate. Exile target creature or enchantment. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. You have an Ephemerate, which does the same thing. Justice Hero's Portal, again, does the same thing. Cloud Shift does the exact same thing of exiling creature and putting it right back on the battlefield. Acrobatic Maneuver, exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Draw a card. So that's really helpful. And then Bovine Intervention. This allows me to destroy an artifact or a creature, and its controller creates a 2/2 white ox creature token. This, generally, what I target with this, if I have my token doublers or tripler on the battlefield, I'll target one of my ox token and then create 3+ tokens instead. And then I have Rootborn Defenses. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn, which really comes in handy. And then the last two instances that I have, Take the Bait and Master Warcraft, they kind of do similar things. Take the Bait. There it is. Take the Bait. Cast this spell only during an opponent's turn and only during combat. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and planeswalkers you control this turn. Untap all attacking creatures and goad them. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. This gives somebody else an extra combat phase, which doesn't really help me, but it prevents all damage that would be dealt to me, and then it goads all their creatures that they tried to attack with me, and then they have to attack somebody else again. So that comes in really handy. And then Master Warcraft. Cast this spell only before attackers are declared. You choose which creatures attack this turn. You choose which creatures block this turn and how those creatures block. So this you can use in a couple different ways. You can choose if you want somebody to lose matchups. You can choose which creatures they attack. Let's say they have a bunch of 1/1 Vampire Knight tokens, and you want them to swing. You don't get to choose who they swing at, but you can choose what creatures were to block them, or if you don't want anything to die, or you don't want anything to block it, you could choose to just have them unblocked. The only downfall to that card is you don't get to choose who those creatures attack. You just get to choose which creatures attack, which does kind of suck, but I mean, it is what it is. The main purpose of this deck is getting the extra combats, getting the exile or the ETB effects, and creating as many cows as we possibly can. I wanted this deck to kind of play similar to like a Krenko Mob Boss, which can kind of get out of hand very quickly. It definitely is a lot slower than Krenko, but it does have that potential to be able to create a lot of cow tokens at one point. You know what I mean? They pretty much instantaneously you can create a buttload of these cow tokens, depending on what cards you happen to have on the battlefield. But yeah, this is my favorite deck because I think it's absolutely hysterical to have a buttload of cow tokens that have double strike and trample and vigilance, and they're buffed up in some way, shape, or form, and then you swing out with them and win the game. So that's my last commander deck that I have right now. I am currently working on another deck. I don't have the cards yet. I'm about I think it's like 17 cards shy of that deck. If I could figure out a way to be able to talk and screen record, I can go over it in like a like Arcadeck or Moxfield, something along those lines, that I can look up the cards on my screen record, but also still be able to talk as well. Until then, I might just wait until I get all the cards and then do it from there. So please, again, like and subscribe. Stick around for more Magic the Gathering content. I'll be posting some gameplay stuff, as well as a handful of other videos of kind of what I look for in a commander deck, and how I pick and build my decks. So until then, I will see you guys in the next video.